Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, here by Chris, the technician Aceto, on this May 8th, 2017 afternoon, and another Arnold Classic now. And it seems like every weekend, Chris, we're talking about another Arnold Classic happening, and it's so funny because they have so many of them now, but they're very strategically placed at every continent. There's actually an Arnold Classic on every continent except Asia, believe it or not. And I'm sure, except Asia, I should say, including Asia, but I'm saying except Antarctica. That's the only continent that doesn't. I don't even know do people live in Antarctica?
They have to live in Antarctica. You know, Elon Musk is talking about in like 20 years Mars.
Really?
I mean,
yeah.
we'll never make it to Mars if we can't survive Antarctica.
Can you imagine if they'd probably have like a little settlement there on Antarctica, and like it's like a little hut, with a few, houses, a few little buildings for the researchers there. Arnold could fly people in on like a helicopter, and we could have it. We could right on the glacier there. We could do the contest. That would the lighting would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be tremendous natural light, like unfazed. Why don't you put a shout out?
Maybe even Bob Grushkin. Grushkin would come out of retirement just to take pictures.
No, he's. No. His cameras. He can't get the film for the camera anymore, dude. They don't make film.
I'm sure someone makes film.
Listen, you have to put out a request to any potential listeners in Antarctica.
Right.
And if they are, drop you an email, Dave, and tell... you should have them on the show. Have them as a call-in.
Well, I'm sure someone out there is probably listening from Antarctica. And if they are, and they have an idea of if there's any space out there... Well, there's plenty of space, but... there's any venue out there that, I guess the venue could be outside, but we really need like a hotel, because these guys have to make their food and everything like that. So I don't know how they would. I guess you could fish.
You get those food companies. You get the food companies to send the stuff up.
That's right.
Isn't it funny that people this day and age, which is different for you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They don't cook their food. No one cooks their food.
No, yeah, I find that that's a good topic. We should do that on like Iron Debate or something like that.
Ask Jay.
Why is it that no one wants to cook their food? I used to love cooking my food for contest prep because I was too paranoid to let anyone else do it for me.
Well, I said ask Jay because he had early on he was a cook extraordinaire. He loved cooking his food.
Right. I know Eduardo Correa loves cooking his food too.
Yeah, he loves cooking his food. Yeah, he is a chef.
I remember going into the hotel room once when you were helping him, and he had his room. I thought Guy Cisternino was organized. I thought I walked into a restaurant. I mean, Eduardo had like pots and pans and hot plates and spice. Like it wasn't just like most bodybuilders just boil their chicken, throw it in a bag, and throw it and freeze it. He had like spices and like like fine delicacies there that he was like the way he was preparing this food. It was like he was going to a French restaurant or something like that.
Well, when he's done cooking each meal in a hotel room, he scrubs every utensil, the cooking. I mean, he cleans it obsessively.
Oh, really? So yeah, he must be real fun to be around.
The pots and the pans that he brings looks like they just came off the shelf.
Pristine.
From the store.
They wouldn't look like my dad's pots and pans. It looked like he lives in like they're from like 1920 or something like that. Speaking of my dad, my dad, I don't know if I told you this on the radio. Did I tell you my dad tried to burn his house down or by accident tried to burn his house down?
We'll send our friend Joe, the insurance claim guy, down.
My dad lit it's not actually funny, but it's funny afterwards because no one got hurt. But my dad lit a fire in the middle of his bathroom for some reason with papers. I don't like papers that he was like writing with, like poems on and stuff like that. Why he thought now he had done this once before. In a garbage pail in his room. He thought he was in Vietnam and he had to heat up the room. He had to stay warm. But this time we're not really sure why he lit it. But he did alert my aunt who lives with him, thank God, that there was a fire in the bathroom, which she came up and tried to put out. Which luckily was like right in the middle of the room. It wasn't like off to the side, so none of the walls caught on fire. The fire department was there in like 2 seconds. I got to hand it to the East Meadow Volunteer Fire Department. They got there fast. They put it out. I don't know if you've ever seen these volunteer firemen. I don't know if they have them in Maine or if they're paid. The volunteer firefighters in Long Island. There's firehouses that like are worth millions of dollars, but no one really mans those like they do in the cities. But there's like a volunteer corps of guys. A lot of the guys are like people who work at the city, regular jobs, and then they just volunteer on the weekends, or they volunteer to be, on standby. And these guys, and I remember one of my newspaper guy was one of these guys. They have these little radios, and when a fire is reported, they all hear it, and they all jump in their car and they all run to the firehouse. And it's like the old bucket brigade back in the day, where they didn't have hoses. They would actually have to take buckets of water, and they'd have like 100 guys, and they would just hand one to the next, to the next, to the next, until they keep putting out the fire. And so these guys got there, put the fire out, and my dad actually was taken to the hospital because I don't know if it was mental evaluation, but he had a little smoke inhalation.
You need special training to be the fireman?
I don't know. I think there's the core guys that are firemen, like other places, like paid, and then there's like the wannabe firemen that want to learn about how to be firemen because they're they're into it.
Here's a true story. Guy's listening, I'm sure, so he can confirm it. Just because I don't need it confirmed. He's just going to laugh when he hears this. He texted me yesterday. Right. He sent me pictures, and I was texting him. I said, "Oh, I'm on my way to a fire." And he laughed. He said, your day never ends. And I never responded. But I get to the fire, the quote, fire. The fire truck is there.
I'm assuming it's one of your properties.
Yeah. And they want to give me like a citation for no smoke detector where there was this fire. Some little old lady had left something on the stove. And she actually came back, and the smoke alarm was going off. And I didn't know the fire department was called, but she had taken the smoke detector down on her way out the door.
Oh my God! What a dope!
Because it was too loud. So when I got there, they were like, they're like, quasi down my throat, and I'm saying, well, wait a minute, wait, what? They said, people can die here. There's no smoke detector, and so I asked this maintenance guy. I said, Bill, didn't you call me and say there looked to be a fire with tons of smoke coming out of an apartment? He said, yeah. I said, how did you know? He said, I was like outside the building and I could hear the alarm. And I said, so what happened to the alarm? He said he didn't know what happened to it. So we found the little lady, and she said on her way out the door, she took it off the wall because it was a nuisance to the other tenants. She's like 70-something years old, so I had to get her, because they'd never believe me, right? Yeah. I mean, that sounds just too crazy. No. So I had to get her and say, ma'am, can you tell this man what happened with the smoke detector? And she admitted that she had taken it down.
Oh, my God. Thank God. Yeah, I mean, exactly. How the hell would anyone have been alerted if there was no smoke?
Yeah, well, that's what I said. I was confused. I asked him, how did you know? Other than, I guess, an option would be, I guess, visibly smoke coming out a window or something. Yeah. Said he could hear it.
Usually that's too late when the smoke is coming out the window. Unbelievable. Yeah, so my dad, luckily, everyone was okay. My dad was okay, but obviously he doesn't. And then when I talked to him, he didn't even remember when he was in the hospital why he was there. He's like, something happened, right? I said, yeah, you set a fire. He goes, what happened? I was smoking a cigar. I said, no, Dad, you lit a fire. Like you put kindling in there. It was like a real fire. Luckily, like I said, it was in the middle of his floor, and he has this like travertine stone floor. So while there's like a little bit of a discoloration there, I don't know how it didn't burn down anything.
It's not a hardwood floor, right? So it didn't.
Yeah, it's stone. Yeah, so it didn't travel. If it would have been next to the wall, though, the wall would have gone up. Forget about it. The whole house would have burnt down. So obviously, my dad can't live in his house anymore by himself. Even though my aunt's there, she can't watch him 24 hours a day. So I had to fly up to New York at the last minute and have a talk with my dad, and I went to see some I guess you could say assisted living places by me, which are really, I got to tell you, these new assisted living places are like country clubs. They're like I wouldn't have a problem living in. I mean, they're really gorgeous, and
well, you could own a house on a golf course in a country club for what they cost.
Yeah, no, they're very expensive, but you know what? They do everything for you. They make 3 meals a day. They make sure you go to meals. They clean your place, your apartment. Everyone has like their own little apartment, and they do your laundry and they give you your meds. I mean, it's exactly what my dad needs. And he'll be. And you know what the funny thing is? He's living in like this house that that is in total disrepair because he won't let anyone go in there and fix it up and paint and change up things. And he doesn't like doing he doesn't do anything anyway. As far as my dad doesn't like to clean, doesn't like to do anything. So and he doesn't like the cold. So he's in the worst environment possibly. And he had to wait until he can't even I can't let him stay in the house anymore. So now he's I had to come down here and I had to talk to him about coming down to Florida. So now I think I got him sold on the Florida thing. The problem is that he won't remember tomorrow that he sold on the Florida thing, so I'm going to have to keep reminding him of it. But the trip to get my dad from New York to Florida, which will happen probably in the next couple of weeks, will probably be worthy of some kind of reality show. I will probably need psychological counseling when it's all over, but if I might bring Johnny Styles just to film it because it might be worth people seeing it because I guarantee it'll be.
He hasn't been on. You've been hiding him. He's not been on camera for a long time.
I know. The funny thing is that my dad has not traveled. I don't even think he's gotten in the car other than go to the doctor in years. So this will be very traumatic for him emotionally. The problem is that there's two ways to do it with my dad. Is to over-medicate him, which will make him more compliant, but it will also make him like a bumbling fool, which could somehow. Sometimes if they think you're inebriated, they won't let you on the plane. So I have to try to I'm gonna have to try to balance his pharmaceuticals so that he's functional but still inebriated enough that he will sit on the plane because he'll complain the whole time. It'll be worse than bringing my son Logan on the plane.
Yeah, because Logan, you can always pick up when he slows you down.
Right. He might. Well, they'll wheel my dad down in a wheelchair. I'm just afraid that my dad sits in a car for 15 minutes. Probably just going to the airport, he'll be having a nervous breakdown. He's just, I'm uncomfortable and this and that, and he won't go gently. That's
you got to divert his attention when you're bringing him to the airport. Talk about English classes and the war when he was in, where was he? Korean War?
He wasn't. He thinks he was in the war. He wasn't in any war. But he was in the army.
Oh, that's even better. So he can, anyway. He can create stories and keep himself busy so that, if he's thinking of that, he's not going to be thinking of the anxiety of traveling.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know. It's gonna be a project, that's for sure. So that's what I got to look forward to in the next couple of weeks. Which is crazy because I got a lot going on. Because the end of the month, I have the Guru course at 27th, sold out. I can't put any more people. People are begging me to come into the class. I don't know why people wait till the last minute. Every week on this show, Chris, I talk about my secrets to becoming a Diet Guru course. I say, sign up. I said there's only limited room, and I've already oversold the class. Because a couple people signed up on my website. I thought we had taken it off of there. There's too many people at this point. I'd love to bring more people, and I'll have to hold another one. So I got that at the end of the month. Then 2 weeks after that, I'm going to Italy, believe it or not, with Johnny. We're flying to Italy to do a factory tour of the Yamamoto Nutrition factory there.
Can you get me a shirt or something? Or since I'm still wearing Jay's shirt that he gave me from 20.
Still wearing Muscle Tech shirts, yeah. I'll
listen.
Get you a shirt.
I'll let the the only shirts I have is what Jay gave me.
You have that Muscle Tech jacket you wear.
I have the Muscle Tech jacket. I had another one that Cedric stole from me.
I'll send you some Species shirts. We're printing up new ones.
Give me Speed. I got all the guys. I got 500 Guy Sistinino shirts, but I can't wear them. I have to wear them inside out around my house because on the back they say things like, "It's a fucking war and I'm gonna F you up, everybody." And I have Brad Road T-shirts still. I have Roden T-shirts.
You're funny. You're like my dad, basically, because my dad wears.
I get the Boston Mass T-shirts.
You want to hear something
funny? My kids
funny?
have the Boston Mass T-shirts.
You want to hear something funny? You're exactly.
Did I ever tell you about my son? I told Jose this story once. When Jose first met my son, it had to be 4 or 5 years ago. He gave him a picture of a most muscular with 10,000 veins.
Right.
My son, who was not homeschooled at the time, took it into second grade, and he had it pasted on his folder.
That's funny.
And they called me up and they said, "Come get this. It's profanity."
What? Are you serious? Oh my god.
That's a true story.
Wow.
Come get the.
Well, the funny thing is, my dad wears all the old stuff I had given him. He's like you. He does no new stuff. And I went over to his house. This was maybe right before I moved. and he was wearing a muscular development, like MD, shirt or something like that.
That is really funny.
I'm like, where did you find that? Where did you get that? I must have given that to you like 8 years ago. Still wearing the same thing. So I gave him all new clothes. I gave him all my, because I was cleaning. I was going to throw out all these T-shirts that I don't wear, and I just gave them to my dad. So now he's got like a whole new wardrobe. He's got. I mean, his stuff was so old. Like I couldn't even believe he was wearing it. It was so old, the stuff. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so yeah, you've become, our dad already. And
it's terrible, Dave. It's terrible. The number one thing I think of during the day, and this is a true story, is don't become like your father. and it's almost like sitting in Maine in November and winter's coming.
Yeah.
Like you just can't keep back the snow. I just can't. I understand that concept. Don't become like your father, but I don't know how to break away from it. I need to sit down. I need to sit down with like Tony Robbins or something, walk on coals or something, so I don't become like my father.
It's inevitable. It just happens. I keep seeing this the way I chew my food, the way I walk. It's like it's scary. It's very scary. I got to tell you. So I'm in a hotel here in New York. It's funny because the weird thing is I own a house, Chris, that's empty in New York. So theoretically, if I got a sleeping bag, I could really stay for free in this house because it's my house. It's the house I used to live in. I'm trying to sell it. It's my rental house. It's on the it's in contract. But it just doesn't have. I need Wi-Fi. I need modern conveniences. There's nothing hooked up there, so I have to stay in a hotel. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me make a cup of coffee. Chris and I do this radio show, and I can't believe in this day and age, they give you the free coffee. They have a little coffee pot in the room, and they have like sweet and low, for sweeteners.
That's the cheapest.
Yeah, I can't believe that sweet and low.
What hotel are you staying at? You're not staying at the Ritz, are you?
No, I'm staying at the Red Roof Inn.
The Red Roof. There you go.
Yeah, but I didn't even know they made. Why do they still make sweet and low? It's the worst tasting sweetener of all time. Why?
Because people like my father grew up on it and they love it. He puts it on like cornflakes, like 3 packets.
What? It's the worst artificial sweetener ever created.
To it. Listen, it's like anchovies. People don't like anchovies.
Yeah.
But when you grew up on anchovies, you love the taste of anchovies. So when you grew up on Sweet and Low, I can remember drinking Fresca made with saccharin.
Yeah.
My mother used to drink Lipton Diet iced tea, and it was made of saccharin. It was like brown chemicals. It probably
saccharin was the right.
It probably that I stacked that with sunlight. That probably triggered my melanoma.
Yeah. Saccharin is the worst tasting sweetener of all time. It was better than nothing, I guess, back in the day when that's the only thing they had to use other than sugar. But once they developed Equal, which was aspartame. And then they obviously have sucralose now everyone uses, which is Splenda. No one used it anymore. I can't believe they still make it, that people use it. But you're right. Probably by convention, some people still use it. But, I mean, how much cheaper can it really be than I bet if we went to the store, it's probably almost the same price as the sucralose is now or the Equal is. Unbelievable.
I don't know. You should get the manager on the radio show.
I'll tell you, though, I had a pocket full of Splenda because I know better. I know that these hotels do shit like this, so I was prepared this time. I didn't get caught with my pants down. Anyway, a lot of action this weekend in the IFBB, all the way around the world, I should say. So we were in Arnold, South Africa. We had a show. We had the Pittsburgh Pro, and then John Lindsay had a show in California. So 3 pro events in the same weekend. I think the name of the day obviously has to be Johnnie Jackson comeback that you almost predicted last week. You said, "Hey, Johnnie Jackson looks pretty damn good at this Pittsburgh guest posing." Johnny put up his guest posing routine. Puerto Rico guest posing, and I
said you were right. I said it'd be tough to beat.
You were right. I mean, he looked
because
really
I knew he'd win the side chest. I knew he'd win the most muscular. I knew he'd win the back double against everyone but Ben Pakulski.
Yeah, you and I said if Ben Pakulski would have gone to this show with his legs, because this was really a show of weak legs, he would have cleaned up
first.
Yeah.
So long as his upper body was full enough,
Yeah.
And if he had gone down to if Ben Pakulski, mark my words, had gone down there with Milo Sarcev, then he would have won the show because that would have put the kibosh on having a flat upper body.
He would have had 80 units of insulin in him. It would have been great. By the way, that Milo, I did an interview, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, I did an interview with Milo Sarshev last week, and it's gotten like 1 million hits, this thing. People love. I've been getting people telling me this is the greatest interview they've ever watched on our site, which I don't know if it is or not, but it's certainly up there because Milos is so radically honest.
On the YouTube, they put it on the YouTube site. No, I mean that's the primary place to find it.
Well,
right?
You can see it on RxMuscle.com.
Okay, is the link there? Okay.
Yeah, we have it embedded in our articles. But the point is that the Milos interview got so much play, and so many people felt compelled to email me that they loved it and they want more of Milos. That I was shocked actually, but Milos is good because Milos will argue with you. He'll argue with him and I. It was like an iron debate and an interview at the same time.
Milos is like a bodybuilding virus. And what I mean by that is you could go to like Estonia, or you could go to South Africa, or you could go to Japan and ask someone what they're doing, and they'll be doing some type of diet or some type of training, and the diet in Japan came from Hyde, who got it from Milos 15 years ago. You know what I mean?
Well, Milos was the first guy.
Not
Milos was the
diet,
first,
but some type of original concept came from.
Yeah, Milos was
he's
the first.
He's probably like a high-tech Bob Gruskin.
Milos was the first guy to touch the international audience. You got to remember, before the internet was the way it is, where we can Skype and do all this stuff, it was just emails. And Milos was a guy who was traveling internationally because he's from Czech Republic over there, and he's always in all these European countries. So he had a big influence on people early on, even in the 90s, before there was internet and where people could communicate on social media. So that's why I think he has a better foothold out there than a lot of people do. Nowadays, I help people, I'm sure you do too, in China and South Africa and Australia, and it's no big deal because it's like everyone's on. You could call each other on WhatsApp, for free, So, but before that, Milos was the only game in town, so to speak. The only guru who's really out there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why so many people had, like you said, from 15 years ago, they have his diet,
Well, I mean, if they don't have the diet, they have some type of concept that came from Milos, which would be like a training system built around like some type of carb load.
Yeah. Wasn't
and what I mean by a virus is, how it spreads. I didn't mean that in a negative way. How a virus is spread, that information spread because Milos is doing XYZ and he's helping Hyde, or he's helping Dennis Wolf, or he's helping this guy, and this guy goes back to where he's from. And those people in his gym say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they get it from those guys, Wolf and.
Didn't Johnnie Jackson used to work with Milos, or am I making that up?
Johnny has worked with him in the past. Yeah, way back. Yeah.
Now I'm looking at the scorecards here, and I got to tell you, Johnnie Jackson won, but there was a couple. Round 2 was actually won by Michael Lockett. I'm looking here. So round 1,
2 minutes later.
No, round 1 is the prejudging. Round 2 is the finals.
2 hours later,
and then the posing round, I guess, is round 3, which Johnny narrowly defeated Lockett at. So it was a lot closer than people think. Michael Lockett, almost won his first pro show here. And this guy is he might be the Milos of the new era because this guy can do every show. He's always in shape.
Let me interject this. You had said a few weeks ago that if Michael Lockett continues to do all these shows, because he's not going to get burnt out, he's only going to improve and get better, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and he's able to sustain that insane level of conditioning, from show to show to show. We always thought Juan Morel was the guy who can do that, but Juan doesn't seem to be able to do that anymore. I don't know what the issue is. He just doesn't look like the Juan Morel we saw 2 years ago. I don't know what's going on with his physique. He's good. Let's not take it away from him. I mean, the guy who was third place here, but he's not great. He's not coming in as sharp as he needs to be.
This is not Juan Morel when he won the New York Pro.
No, we're not seeing that. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he has injuries or if he's just not timing things right. It's also, sometimes a lot of guys have trouble traveling. I mean, he's going all over the world.
He's done international.
He's in New Zealand. He's in Brazil. It
takes a toll. And
absolutely
on a bigger, taller guy, it's not like it just for some reason, a bigger, taller, meaning there's more weight on you. Take out the there's always exceptions. Michael Lockett's a big guy too, but he's, he doesn't have that issue. But some guys who are big and tall, the travel just hammers them.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what's happening is the travel. The travel, back and forth, and you can say, yeah, everybody does that. Everyone's traveling. Well, not necessarily. He's traveling more than other people, further distances, but it's has a more negative effect on a bigger bodybuilder and a taller bodybuilder. It would smoke a Cedric. He'd be fried if he was doing all these shows by the time he got here.
Let's throw another variable in there. He brings his daughter with him.
Well, he needs a trophy for that. The IPB should give him an award for that or something.
You know how hard it is to travel with a young kid. That's no joke.
Are you kidding me? I can't even go to the soccer game this morning. It's too much. Take my 3-year-old. He's staying here.
So I guess I've been telling enough people, so I guess I can mention it here. My wife, Amanda, obviously, is pregnant again. So.
I found out yesterday. I was going to post it up on my Instagram. Who do you think I found it out from? Come on, let's play $20,000.
I think I told Guy. Did I tell Guy?
No? You lost the money. Who would have told me?
Who would have told
you? You got to take it.
Probably she told you.
No, Scooter told me.
Oh, I told Scooter. Yeah, he told everyone.
I haven't heard from Scooter in a month. He said, Dave Palumbo's wife's pregnant.
Actually, Scooter...
He's got the pregnancy protocol. He's got that pregnancy protocol.
Scooter actually called me also because he heard that my dad almost burned the house down because I told our friend Bill Brownstein, my dentist who I do his diet. And Scooter's like, what happened with your dad? So I told him the whole story, because Scooter loves drama like that. He's like, God. And I told him, I got to get my dad down. He goes, you got to get power of attorney. He goes, I got a lawyer for you. Scooter knows every lawyer and every dentist in the entire, country basically. And so he gave me the name of a lawyer. I got to call the lawyer Monday.
I told Scooter yesterday. He called me. I said, Scooter, you're one of like 11 people I follow on Facebook. Instagram. And his training videos, dude, they're off the hook.
Yeah. Yeah, with the guys he trains, he has.
The intensity of whatever he's doing, whatever sport he's training people for, they're actually enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. He's got so much energy, and the guy hasn't slept in like 10 years. He hasn't had a good night's sleep.
Well, he'd love to sleep. He would love to sleep. He just can't sleep.
Yeah. He was asking me about some supplement he wanted to take. I said, that thing I said it makes. Well, no, he was taking some supplement to help him, recover better. I said, well, it's going to make you tired. He said. Will it help me sleep at night? I said, no, it's going to make you tired. You won't sleep, but because you can't sleep. But you'll be tired during the day. So that's not good. So, that was pretty funny. Anyway, so Johnnie Jackson wins here, narrowly defeating Michael Lockett. It was perfect. It was perfect timing for Johnny, really, because everyone was kind of writing him off. And somehow every year he finds a show to do where he wins. This year, this is a big show. I think there's some decent prize money. I don't know how much they gave away, but usually these Arnolds are about 30 grand, right? 30 grand?
Yeah, John, you know what? Johnny's one of the best guys in bodybuilding, period. He's one of the nicest people I've met in the sport, ever.
Right, but he keeps winning. It's crazy. When you think about it. Look how young
he looks.
Oh, yeah, his face is... He looks like he's 30, but the funny thing is that he just has this leg issue, and where his legs are just not beefy enough in the adductor compartment, and meanwhile the guy squats like 700-800 pounds, deadlifts like 800 pounds. It's the crazy thing I've ever seen. But that upper body is so strong. I think that a lot of his powerlifting comes from the back, because he's got one of the best backs in bodybuilding. Always has. And
pecs, abs, biceps, shoulders, triceps.
Good for him. He's got to be close to. He's got to be close to my age, I would think. Right? Is he in his upper 40s or is he mid 40s?
He has to be.
He's been 40 for quite a while. I know that.
Yeah. We'll have to check with Dennis James.
I'll ask. I think I'm going to try to get Johnny on the show this week. Hopefully, I get a little interview with him, because this is a huge win for him, because to come to the Arnold Classic, win that, qualify for the Olympia this way. That's monumental. That's you got to give him a round of applause for that one, because a lot of people, no one was really, except you. He kind of jumped in the last minute, so we really weren't, thinking that he was going to be able to do anything here. But he beats everyone. He took out Lockett. He took out Juan Morel, who finishes third. Victor Martinez.
When I saw the video last week, and I said, I told you, I said, I wanted to say this: if they judge it fairly, and I don't mean that they judge shows unfairly, but let's say Victor was in better shape, and they put Victor next to them, they do this. Well, Victor's flow is better, or you know what I mean. So you could give it to him on an intangible,
right?
Like and that's what I thought would probably happen. I figured like Victor would be in good enough shape where, here's what I mean by fair. The intangible of, oh, well, he's got better shape. Of course he's got better shape. But there's this weird thing, too, of Victor's got such a big name that as a judge and as a fan and, as anyone knows the name Victor Martinez, if he's, quote, good enough, and he's being compared to, let's say, Johnnie Jackson, and even if Johnny's edging him out, it's human nature to, like, say, well, Victor's better.
Yeah. Well,
that's where because it's subjective, and that's where the name, you know what I mean? Your eye would probably go to the bigger name.
Well, he obviously wasn't better than anyone because here he gets fourth place. He didn't get even second or third, so I'm assuming he was off. Like you said, if he was on, I think we would have seen probably him win the show. Off, he still takes fourth here, so I have to assume that, he just wasn't his best. Once again, maybe the travel screwed him up. It was his first show of the year, so he should have been fresh. Is he working with the Camel Crew anymore? I don't think he certainly hasn't been in Kuwait, so.
Well, he's working with someone on nutrition, I think, but, he's not there. Yeah. He's not sequestered.
Yeah. Victor needs to be there. He's one of those guys that will do well when he's there. But he doesn't. If he's not there, he's not getting the same level of attention, and people watching. Victor needs to be like babysat almost, for these guys, And I think that he's a guy who does do well in that oxygen gym environment where he's sequestered. I think that not everyone does, but I think he certainly would.
Yeah.
But you think we'll see Juan Morel now go to the oxygen gym? He won't because he's got a family. He can't afford to leave his family that long. But I'd like to see Juan. I'm assuming Juan is going to probably do New York Pro, but maybe not. I don't know. I haven't seen the lineup yet, but I'm assuming he's going to want to redeem himself a little bit and try to win that New York Pro. But I think that New York Pro is going to be a tough show.
It's tough to redeem when you put in 44,000 miles in the last 6 weeks traveling to these shows. In other words,
beats you up.
It's not like one of these things like, okay, I'll sleep in late on Sunday and I'll fly to, back home on Monday and I'll sleep in Monday and I'll be super fresh on Tuesday. You'd be beat up just from the act of traveling. And like I said,
I'm beat up when I travel these shows. I don't even work out when I go in.
It won't beat up like a Lockett, and it won't beat up like a, more compact guy.
Lockett probably eats if I know Lockett, he probably eats the plain food. He's probably right, guaranteed.
He's probably eating breakfast, this morning at the restaurant, and probably better this morning than he was yesterday.
He probably has the food on the plane. I bet you, because he probably doesn't pack his own food, knowing him, and he probably looks better. He dries him out, That's like Cedric,
Yeah,
bacon and eggs. Now, did you help fifth place Ibrahim Fahim?
Ibrahim Fahim, yeah. People say he's a Ron Harris said that he's part of the Camel Crew, but he's not.
When did you start helping him? He's good.
I helped him the last couple of years.
Okay.
He's placed top 5 in a few pro shows the last couple of years.
He's another guy who's got leg issues, but he's got good upper body,
They're coming. The legs are coming, It's like this tough balance, you know what I mean? It's like a Johnny issue,
You know what? It seems like everyone in that top group had leg issues, because Victor had leg issues. Michael Lockett doesn't have. Michael Lockett's got the leanest legs, but certainly has leg issues too. He's got that one leg that's a little smaller. Johnny's got the leg issues. Ibrahim Fahim. So it was basically the legless show, and that's why I think you and Juan has got leg issues. I think that's why
can we get Ben on the phone right now with Milos and see if
Ben Mikulski.
Because
It would have been a win for Ben Mikulski for certain. Now, Jeff Dacum, who finished in 6th, was a guy who I thought could come in here. And he's got wheels. Yeah, he just was off. He just wasn't tight.
Yeah, I mean,
he hasn't stopped competing either, though.
He's improving, but it's tough to do a lot of shows.
The tall guys have trouble on the road. Yeah. You said it. Beats him up.
But he's improving. His trajectory is in the right. It's going up rather than straight across or down.
Well, Milo said when I interviewed him that I was asking him about how back in the day he did every show. He there wasn't as many shows, but he did every show. He goes, if I was competing today, I would have I would do 30 shows a year basically.
You know what Milos, the most profound thing that he said in that interview for me personally, was you said you did 78 shows and in 99 he took a little break and then the fire went out. Yeah,
he said he couldn't get back into it. So,
isn't that weird?
Yeah.
But it's very understandable. But
sure.
He was going. This is a guy who would do the tour every single year of New York. He'd do all the shows, like you said. And he was always traveling, doing seminars, and he had the unofficial title, Secret to the Guru Seminar. He was doing Guru seminars because everyone there was trying to learn from him.
You're right. He was,
and then in '99 he stopped competing, and that was it. He didn't have to. There was nothing left.
Yeah, he had the record.
He did a no mas.
I think he had some personal problems, but he had the record at 72 shows he had done, and Dexter just beat that recently. But Milo said had there been more shows, he would have. Dexter never would have caught him on the number of shows he did. I said, well, Dexter competed 10 years longer than you did. I said, that's why he got more shows than you. He goes, yeah, that's true. It is true. 72 shows is a lot of shows that to compete in, right?
Yeah. Consider how many he's won on 25.
Yeah.
Hasn't he won like 25? He wins 1 in 3.
Dexter probably, yeah. Yeah, you're right. That is a pretty good win. His win percentage is definitely the best out there. Well, maybe not. Lee Haney might have a better one just because Lee Haney didn't do that many shows. But
yeah, but the idea that he's won over 20 years, it's just insane. Yeah. Everything about him is insane.
3 decades, I think he's gone, right? Has he been in? Yeah. 90s, the 2000s, and the 10s. Crazy. So they also had a fitness pro show there. Regina De Silva won that with Dorina Wilson, who's trained by, I think she's still trained by Lena Mission, my good friend, and Diana Montero from Brazil in 3rd. So congratulations to those ladies. They like the fitness down there in South Africa. They used to have the fitness in Brazil. I think they switched it up for figure now. Mm-hmm. So the Arnold Classics, I guess they usually have like one women's event, one men's event, like in the other countries, and then obviously USA they have almost every division. Although they haven't, I don't remember. Did they add Classic yet? No, they haven't added Classic Physique yet. Next year maybe. So good weekend for the Arnold people, and John Lindsay had a show in California this past weekend, Pro Men's Physique event, which was won by Wu Long from China. I didn't even know they had men's physique in China. There you go. Is he the first Chinese? He might be the first Chinese winner of a pro show. Do you know any other guys from China that ever won a pro show?
No.
Wu Long. I haven't seen the pictures yet.
You should get him on the show.
Yeah, if he speaks English. Safia Araya from California was 2nd, and Jeremy Coleman was 3rd. It's funny because they have the guys' names. They have the results. They have the guy's first name and last name. Now, for Wu Long, and I could be screwing it up. It looks like they reversed his name because they couldn't tell because he was from China, which would be a typical dumb American move, right? They have his first name is Long and his first name is Wu. So theoretically, it's Long Wu. So I could be wrong. Do you think that's his name? You think it's Lu? I figure Wu Long would be his name, not Long Wu.
No, that's outside of my sphere of influence. The way the names,
because I assume Don Long is is Don and Long, so I figured Long would be the last name, but maybe in China Long is a first name. Long Wu. Yeah, I think I might have screwed it up. So it's Long Wu wins, not Wu Long. See, now I'll never forget the guy's name. So watch out for him at the Men's Physique Olympia because he'll be there now. And you heard it here first. Long Wu, winner at the California Night of Champions. Hey, you think Wayne DeMille got upset with the fact that John Lindsay's calling his show the California Night of Champions?
Well, maybe the trademark ran out.
Yeah, maybe.
I like the name Night of Champions.
I think.
I love the name.
Wayne D'Amelia used to call it a Night of Champions, so it's a different title. But I thought it was a good name. I guess when Wayne and the IFBB went opposite ways, Wayne had trademarked the name, so they don't use that. But they changed it to New York Pro, which doesn't really matter. No one even cares what the name of the show is, but it was a good name. It was a good name. All right, let's see what else we got here. The Pittsburgh Pro was this also past weekend, and you and I have been talking about this kid for a couple of weeks now. Chris Bumstead won the men's classic physique, division, beating a terrific Divine Wilson and Lee Banks in the process. Here's a guy, Chris, that is, you and I were talking about him. We don't know how he makes the weight class. He's a tall guy, so I'm assuming that's probably how he gets through. But what great symmetry! Small waist. He's got a vacuum pose. He's got great legs for a tall guy. I don't know how he does it, to be honest with you. I don't know how he does it.
Here's what's important about his body. It looks classic. In other words, I'm looking at the pictures. If you can do that, if you can do a kneeling front double bicep, and if you can do that Bob Paris where you kneel and lunge and you square off your shoulders, kind of like, but yeah, you'd have to see the pic. All his poses look, quote, classic.
Right.
And some of the guys in the show are just bodybuilders in that division, which it's the gray area is what's classic and what's not. Someone just told me recently, just because you can do a vacuum doesn't make you a classic bodybuilder.
Right.
You could be a bad bodybuilder who can do a vacuum. To me, the flow, the shape, the presentation, which he steals all Bob Paris' stuff, makes him stick out. Yeah. I mean, I think like the guy who got second looks like a really good bodybuilder, and Lee Banks looks more like a classic bodybuilder.
Well, Lee Banks insists that he is natural, and
I'm sure he is, dude. I am sure
he looks like he is. Yeah, his face changed. You know how when guys are natural, their face gets like more hollowed out. For some reason, this anabolics keep your face like more beefy, muscular. I can just see it in his face, that but he's ridiculously hard. I'll give him that much.
He's ridiculously hard. He's made, I feel, so far the absolute best transition from men's bodybuilding to classic bodybuilding. If you look at the pictures here, he's ridiculously dangerous. Yeah. I mean, he looks incredible. And I mean, the guy who got second, I don't know who I forgot his name.
Wilson.
Divine Wilson. To me, he looks like it sounds odd, but too much power to his physique and too much of a hardcore bodybuilding look to put him over Banks.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Lee's when he does that, most muscular, when he puts one hand on his hip and keeps the other one out in front of him.
I think Divine Wilson has some. At first, when you look at him, I wasn't that impressed. And as I started looking through the pictures, obviously I wasn't there. I have a feeling this guy in person looked wacky because he had crazy separation.
Oh, he's crazy dense.
You can't capture that in pictures, unfortunately. But I am sure. And
I mean, his back double is the thickest in the show. But is that So it goes back to. If he's the thickest in the show and he's harder than, I think he's harder than Chris Bumstead.
Yeah.
To some degree, because the muscle looks more like aged in a good way, more mature. But obviously Chris wins based on the flow and the shape, which I agree with.
Did you look at fourth place, Courage Opara? This guy's got a crazy vacuum pose.
He looks like he's 15 years old.
He looks like a young Kai Green, really. I mean, it's just nuts.
Yeah, he's good. He's got he's got some classic lines to him too.
If you're going to do men's classic physique, you got to have a vacuum pose. I just think it looks wacky. It just that's the classic look that everyone wants to see. He's got a good vacuum. This kid Bumstead's got a pretty decent vacuum pose too, with the teeny tiny waist. I got to tell you, Bumstead looks like he's 10 times bigger than he should be able to be and still make the weight class, but maybe his bones are hollow, and he certainly has.
What is his Dave? Is his weight 205, 205, or 210?
I'm not sure, given his height, what his weight is. I don't know his statistics. We'll have to get him on the TV show, and I'll have to ask him, because he looks like he's the tallest guy in the lineup, or one of the tallest guys in the lineup. So he probably has the ability to weigh more, than these other guys. And don't forget the pro cutoff for weight and height is a little higher. So
it's 205, right? Or is it?
Well, it's 205 for a given height, but he might be taller than the given height, which means his cutoff would be higher than that.
Okay.
It's based on your height. So if you're taller, maybe I don't know, maybe a guy 5'11", it's 205, but for a guy 6 foot or 6'1", it would be 210, 215, 220. I don't know, depending on what the delineation is. I got to look and find. I don't know how tall he is. I will say one thing: he looks a little flat, and the only reason I say that is because
Milos.
Yeah, he needs some insulin. No, the reason I say that is because he's so lean, but yet I'm not seeing some, craziness in terms of striations and fullness.
Dave, I'll tell you exactly what it is, and you can ask him when you get him on the show.
Right.
He's from. It's a Zane Watson. Zane Watson did the 212 Arnold. He was 230, ridiculously hard, 3 weeks out. An open bodybuilder. And starved like a maniac down to 212. And you end up being less, gnarly and less hard at that lower weight, because the only thing that's going somewhere is density and muscle tissue and water in the muscle tissue. That's the only thing that's leaving. So it ends up with almost like could be a little bit harder look. I bet if Chris, I'm sure today, Chris Bumstead, by Monday he'll be insane. So I'm guessing that's what it is, because otherwise he's in beyond impeccable condition.
Now here's a good, interesting thought. The Olympia, the weigh-in for this Classic Physique is 48 hours before the actual show. A guy like him, with Milos on his side, think about, they could probably bump him up 20 pounds probably by the time he gets on stage.
Arash jumped up, I think, 15 last year.
But Milos can get him up at least another 5 to 6.
37.
He could start out at 210 and he wind up at 250 on stage, I think that this Bumstead kid can move up to the open if you really wanted to be honest with you, because I think he's going to be limited on how much muscle he could put on. He probably can't gain a single pound anymore.
Well, I keep saying it, and if I predicted Johnnie Jackson, I'll predict this, at the Classic, 3 years we're going to be seeing 40 guys in the Olympia, and we're going to be seeing new faces, and we're going to be seeing triple the excitement that we're seeing now, because it will catch on like people have no clue that it will catch on.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot.
I get people emailing me all the time. Oh, should I do Classic or bodybuilding? And I'm like, wow, this guy looks incredible. I said, might as well do Classic.
Yeah, if you can make the weight, it's worth it. If you can't make the weight, you do bodybuilding. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot. Chris Bumstead looking like he did here. Can he beat Danny Hester?
Yeah.
Good. What about Arash? Can he beat Arash? Close, right?
It's close. You got to see them next to each other. Yeah. He's damn good.
I said it right from the beginning. I knew the first year Classic Olympia was going to be, it's kind of like it was with men's physique. It's going to be good, but it's not going to be. They're not going to have everyone. All the cards haven't fallen in place yet. Now you're going to see some wacky physiques out there, like this Bumstead kid, and I'm sure we're going to see more guys like him at the New York Pro that are going to just blow everyone's mind. So I think the Olympia is going to be a big mishmash this year. It's going to be a lot of changing of the guard. I don't think we're going to see the same winners.
Listen, there's only so much. There's only a few people who can freak you out on a bodybuilding stage in an open show. Kai Green can freak you out. Right. Ramy can freak you out. Phil can freak you out in terms of, muscle per square inch. But some of these, what are they, figure girl? Who are some of the figure?
Figures. Figure girls.
The crazy tapers. How many times have we been at a show and been freaked out by the crazy taper, crazy cap delts, ridiculously small waist, flare to the thighs. And what do these girls weigh? 105?
Yeah.
118? So my point is, you can be freaked out in a good way when somebody gets up there with the craziest V-taper, craziest cap on their delts. Yeah, they might be 210, but it's impressive to see on stage, and it creates excitement. And you can get 18 guys in a show in a couple years with all freaky V-tapers. And in essence, it's going to have just as strong an impact as those 4 guys I mentioned in the Open.
Yeah. There were 32 guys in this Classic Physique division here.
How many were there in the Arnold Brazil?
A lot less guys, but they're invited. It's invited.
How's Bumstead's legs compared to the top 4 in Arnold?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. They're better, definitely, for sure. I don't know about the upper body.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I'm telling you, I think a lot of these Classic Physique guys can cross over and win pro shows in the open men's category. You know, I was talking to my friend Justin Miller. He was sending me pictures of George Peterson, who's doing the New York Pro in 2 weeks, and he looks wacky. I hope Bumstead does the New York Pro too. I have a feeling he's not going to, but that's going to be a great battle, Bumstead versus Peterson, if he does do it. Because those 2 guys are just tremendous. Men's Physique won by Raymond Edwards, who knocks off Andre Ferguson, who was on that big win streak there. I know Andre was predicting he was going to win Pittsburgh, New York, Toronto, and whatever the other show he's going to do. He's going to be like the Milos of the men's physique division. But Raymond Edwards, puts the beating on him and wins that. Andre second. George Brown, another great guy who won the New York Pro 2 years in a row. He's third place here. So what a great men's physique lineup. Mohammed, I don't even know who this guy in fourth is. Mohammed Bukwamar was in fourth. Antoine Williams, another great men's physique guy, in fifth. So what a crazy lineup that was in men's physique. I mean, it's funny because the men's physique, classic physique, seem to be very strong divisions at Pittsburgh. I guess a lot of guys like to go there. They want to show off to Jim Mannion and all the top judges that are there at the Pittsburgh Pro Championships. Bikini was won by Michelle Sylvia, with Casey Samsel in second and Carolina Araujo in third. Catherine Radulik in fourth, and Sheena Jane Martin in fifth. And in figure, Andrew Pollard wins with Maria Luisa Diaz in third, and Sarah Ford in fourth. Jessica Padilla from Puerto Rico, that's Johnny's favorite, in fourth there, and Carly Starling in fifth. So Pittsburgh, huge classes in all four of these divisions. Very successful, obviously, weekend. Also, the excitement of the weekend, however, in Pittsburgh is that men's physique. What am I talking about? I'm losing my mind here with my dad. I'm like becoming my dad. We just talked about becoming your dad. The men's pro guest poser lineup, and we're going to talk about that when we get back from the commercial break. Chris, we've already gone too far. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
A legendary name in hardcore supplementation. Iron Mag Labs. 100% original, patent-pending andro compounds. The most effective, hardcore, groundbreaking bodybuilding supplements in the world. Iron Mag Labs. Revolutionizing hardcore supplementation for more than a decade. Visit ironmaglabs.com. ironmaglabs.com.
Hi, I'm Dave Palumbo, and I just had a protein shake made with Quest Nutrition's new salted caramel protein powder. And I can tell you this, it's on a whole new level. It's a total reinvention of the protein shake. The taste is incredible, and its creamy texture and richness make it taste like a real caramel milkshake. It's incredibly low carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 22 grams of protein in every serving. No soy, and it's gluten-free. Just add water, ice, a scoop of protein, and shake it up. It's that easy. I actually look forward to drinking this shake. And Quest Nutrition has got a total of 7 different flavors. They come in convenient single-serving packets so you can mix and match. Check out loveyourproteinpowder.com for more information on Quest protein powders and some delicious shake inspirations. Welcome back to Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, talking with Chris, the technician Aceto. And we were just speaking about all the great contest results that took place this past weekend. The Arnold South Africa, the Pittsburgh Pro, the John Lindsay Night of Champions. And the excitement that I was waiting to talk about was the guest poser lineup that's always stellar in Pittsburgh. And this year was no different. We had six-time Mr. Olympia Phil Heath out there, Dexter the Blade Jackson, who we have not seen on stage this past year yet. He's saving it up for the Olympia, trying to get his win number 2 on that stage at the age of 48. Big Rami in from Kuwait with Ruli Winkler, also coming in from Kuwait. Dallas McCarver in the house, and Sergio Oliva Jr., who another guy that you're helping, Chris, that's going to be making his pro debut in New York in 2 weeks. He's looking pretty stellar up on that stage. It's amazing how close facially that Sergio Oliva Jr. and Phil Heath look to each other. They look like they could be brothers.
Yeah, it's funny. They have a similar look.
Right? Isn't it?
In the face,
They do look alike. I mean, a lot. I mean, especially when Sergio is dieted out, you know. I thought it was pretty interesting. Now, I originally saw Kai Green on the poster. I thought Kai Green was going to be in this lineup, and we had seen some pictures on that he had posted on social media like a week or two ago, and he was looking insane. He claims he was 320 pounds. I don't know if that was the truth or not, but he looked pretty wacky. I figured we would definitely see him up on stage on Pittsburgh. I don't know if he had something to do or not, or at the last minute. What do you think is going on with that? Where do you think Kai Green was this past weekend?
I don't know.
I would have loved to see him up there on stage next to the big Rami and Phil and all those guys.
Yeah, I don't know where he, disappeared to.
Maybe Phil and him had a fight in the bathroom before, and Phil put the beating on him. Put the beat down on him. Look, create some more rumors that aren't true, right?
Yeah.
Fake news. Fake news. I looked at the lineup, and I think you and I both concurred that probably of all the guys up there, that Big Rami looked the most impressive.
Absolutely.
Amazingly enough, because Sergio's got a show in 2 weeks, but Big Rami actually had abs. I mean, he wasn't ripped to the bone, but he had some good conditioning for this many weeks out from the Olympia.
Yeah, he looked like he's taking care of business.
Yeah. He evidently didn't watch the Iron Rage John and I did about begging for applause, where we were saying how horrible it is when you beg for applause. Now, this was a guest posing, so you could actually do that. But when he came out, he put his hand to his ear again, which was something that John and I said. Does that drive you crazy too when you see guys competing?
You know who I think Matarazzo started it and everyone copied him.
But he started it when he was guest posing. Now, I don't think he did that when he was competing.
No, I know, but no, he did it years later competing and. Matarazzo started that, and he started jumping into the audience, which I don't think he'd ever done.
No. I was always afraid to jump into the audience because I was always afraid of hurting myself, and I saw a couple of guys hurt themselves jumping off the stage. Probably the guy who jumped off the stage the most gracefully that I've ever seen was Kai Green, which is amazing because he's so big, but he's got that athleticism.
But that's how Remy got hurt when he went into the audience in India.
Yeah, but it was I don't think he got hurt jumping off stage. I think
he was trying to get back onto the stage. Somebody pushed him. That's right.
I think someone was like, there were so many guys around him that it was crazy. How do you think Sergio will do in New York?
I don't know. I think he's got one of these physiques that he doesn't have a ton of muscle, but under the right condition, right lights, blah 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 blah.
Right.
I guess I'm on the fence. We'll see.
Yeah. Dallas looked big still.
Yeah, he looked very big. Yeah. Phil always looks like, who knows, in guest posings. You know what I mean? He looks like buttery, round, but you know what I mean? It's...
Yeah.
And I guess you have to be there because I know Phil's he looked crazy.
Yeah, well, Phil's not the biggest guy. He's wows people when he's crazy, shredded, ripped, because he gets the cartoonish look to him. He doesn't have that offseason. But you know what? Ronnie never looked impressive in the offseason either. When you'd see Ronnie guest post, you'd be like, man, he's fat. Even Dorian didn't look that great when he guest posed. He was huge, but he wasn't that great. Some guys just look good all year round, like Kai Green. Kai Green just has that wacky muscle. And some guys don't look good until they're in contest shape. And Phil's one of these guys that when he's shredded to the bone, you just see detail that you've never seen before, and you don't see that off season. Now, Rulli is wearing the Classic Physique shorts, so I'm thinking, you think he can suck down to that Classic Physique division?
If they move it up to like 300.
Yeah, he does look very big. He looks huge. I had some guy email me and tell me that the secret to the Oxygen Gym guys is that he said, I know it. I know the secret. I'm going to tell you guys. I'm anonymous though. They're taking three myostatin inhibitors, and because they're on these three myostatin inhibitors that synergistically work together, it suppresses their immune system so much that they have to sleep in tents so that they don't get sick and get exposed to germs. They have. I said, this guy? People are out of their fucking minds, to actually believe this craziness.
Well, people believe anything.
I said, well, why is Akeem Williams sleeping in the same room as another guy, and if their immune system is so bad, and then they have to sleep in a bubble? I don't know who makes this stuff up. It sounds almost like a Milo story, but it's not. So I said, look, if you guys don't understand what bodybuilding is, it's about lifting heavy weights, eating a lot of food, and sleeping enough. That's bodybuilding. There's no secret. There's no secret drugs. Everyone uses the same stuff. Everyone takes the same food in. Everyone trains with the same weights. Some people just train harder, more intensely. Some people are more meticulous with their nutrition. And some people have better genetics than other people. And that's the truth of the freaking sport. Because you know what? I had good genetics, but not great genetics. And I was able to probably overcome a lot of my genetic flaws by putting extra muscle on and being super conditioned. But I never was going to have a Mr. Olympia physique because I don't have the genetics for it. So I maximized all the other variables. Some people who maximize all the variables, like Ronnie Coleman, win 8 Olympias, or Lee Haney. Some people maximize some of the variables, but not the other variables, and they become good bodybuilders or good pro bodybuilders, and not great pro bodybuilders. And we see it all the time. So when you go to Oxygen Gym, they're trying to maximize all the variables, but there's still the genetic component to the whole equation that you cannot discount. And that's why there's only one big Rami out there. There's only one Phil Heath. There's one Jay Cutler, because not everyone has those kind of genetics. And I think that people just have to accept that there's no secrets that people are hiding anywhere.
Yeah, if there are, it's Aceto at RxMuscle.com. Aceto at RxMuscle.com. If you know any secrets.
Yeah, that you want to relay to us. Now, I'm excited for the New York Pro that's coming up in 2 weeks. I'm going to go. I might actually go see Steve Weinberger today. I don't know if I'm going to have time before I fly back, but I'll definitely see him when I come in 2 weeks. But I'm excited for the show. It's in the Westchester County Medical. Now my med school is
yeah, you're getting really crazy. You're
giving your Westchester County Center.
I was going to say that sounds like where you went to college.
It's where I went to medical school, but the Westchester County Medical Center is where I went to med school. Westchester County Center, which is about a couple miles away from there, very close, is in White Plains, and that's where the show is going to be. It's also where the reptile. I do my reptile shows there, same center. So I'm wondering if there might be a reptile show the following day, so I can kind of do a double banger, show bodybuilding show one day, the following morning I go to the reptile show, same location. Anyway, it's going to be a great event there. I'm looking forward to it. I think Westchester is a great place to hold a show. I think it's a good move for Steve Weinberger to move it up there. I know it's a bigger venue. They got good parking there. They charge for parking, but they got good parking. And it's going to look like it's going to look more professional, I think, up there, especially since the New York Pro is such a professional show. And I think Steve had outgrown that venue. Even though I love that Doubletree Hotel there that they hold it in. Or not Doubletree, they hold it in the Courtyard Marriott. Is it Marriott?
No, that's not it. If you said it, I'd recognize it.
Where is it? It's in. I see now. We're becoming our dads.
I know.
Now, Chris.
I know.
Teaneck, New Jersey. It's in the Teaneck Marriott. That's where they hold the Team Universe and all the other New York shows. But they're moving the New York Pro this year up to White Plains. So don't go to Teaneck, New Jersey, because there'll be no show there in 2 weeks. I have a good quote of the week, Chris. I know you like my quotes of the week. I hear you typing in the background, so stop typing for a minute when we do this quote of the week. I actually have 2 quotes of the week, but I'm going to pick one. I'm going to pick the Chinese proverb since Wang Lu won the John Lindsay show out there from China. I'm going to pick a Chinese proverb. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. You want to give your interpretation of that, or you want me to read it again?
No, let me think about it.
Very, very wise.
There's never a wrong time to do something.
Well, I mean, when I went out and bought fruit trees, for my property in Florida, I'm like, man, if I would have planted these things, I even said it. If I would have planted these 5-6 years ago, think about how much great fruit I'd have on it. And I think people do that all the time in life. They say, man, if I would have just, been the bodybuilder I want to be, at 20 instead of waiting till 40, if I would have invested in that money, if I would have bought that house 20 years ago, right? How many times do you hear your parents say that?
Oh, gosh, forget about it.
But the next best time to do something is right this minute. It's never too late. You start now, because 20 years flies by real quickly. Another 20 years will go by real fast, and you'll say, I should have planted the plant 20 years ago. So don't be discouraged that you might not have done things in the time frame that you think you should have. The next best time is doing it right this minute. Start. If you want to do something, if you want to be something, start it now. Because 5 years flies by so quickly.
Yeah.
It's like I could have said, oh man, I should have had kids 10 years ago when I was 35. And
what do you mean 35? You would have been 40, so stop padding your age, dude.
I would have been 39. I'm not 50 like you yet. Next year. But, I mean, I could have said that, and I could have never had kids because of that. But I said, you know what? I'm ready. I'm going to do it right now.
Listen, I was once out in front of a property that I bought. And I bought it, and the broker said, do you think you paid too much? Just after he sold it to me. And I said, I think I paid a very aggressive price. And he said, are you worried about that? I swear, Dave, this ties right into the conversation. Mm-hmm. The location, what do you know about real estate? If people know nothing about it, what do they know? Location, right?
Right.
The location is beyond prime.
Right.
So I said, what do you think you could sell it for in 20 years? And he said, I don't know, 5-10 times as much as it is now. And I said, no, I think I'm okay.
Yeah, that's not too.
I mean, time goes by.
Yeah. Well, you knew it was a good deal. I mean, you knew it was a good property, and you weren't buying it to sell the week after. You were buying it long term, so you knew long term that eventually the price was going to go up to the point where you were going to make money. I mean, at some point, you're going to sell your properties and probably have a nice little nest egg in the bank that will be your retirement. So that when you and I are in a senile memory ward together down in Florida, we can afford it. Right now, kids won't have to mortgage their houses to do it. So it's scary. But if we do both lose our memory, can we tell our wives to put us in the same place?
Oh, I don't.
Because your wife is younger, my wife is younger, so
Yeah.
That's the only thing I ask. Can I be put with Aceto, even though we won't remember who each other are? I just want to be in the same insane asylum.
You know what? We'll run in Milos. We can get Milos to come visit us.
He'll be right there with us, giving us insulin, because he'll say, "Insulin, will get your memory back."
Yeah.
No. Actually, Colette Nelson thinks that.
No, because I thought Milos will come visit us because Milos is like a J. They have photographic memories. Milos can tell you every little detail. I mean, you didn't get into it, Dave, with him, but he can go into the exhaustive details of Toronto Pro. I should have won that over Ronnie Coleman. I think he did win a Toronto Pro. And meal 3 was 8 ounces of chicken breast and 395 grams of carbohydrates with 300 grams of glucose, and my weight was didn't even move. So what that tells you is that, I mean, his memory is unbelievable when it comes to bodybuilding.
That's funny.
He can tell you what Hyde weighed 4 days before the Olympia where he got 10th. He can tell you what Dennis Wolf ate at meal 6 on a Wednesday morning before the 2007 Olympia.
Right.
People laugh and they say, yeah, he can.
I gave him pie filling. Apple pie filling.
You got to get him on. You know what? You got to get him on because he's colorful. You got to get him on again we heard the technical Milos. Now we got to get he's got more stories than anyone, because when you do 76 shows and you go on tours with all these guys, and these guys would all pick his brain.
Oh, he knows every. Yeah, you're right. He knows every diuretic that these guys took, every anabolic steroid, every pharmacy they visited, probably to get the stuff they needed in these European countries. I'm sure you're right. Milos probably has the greatest stories of all time, and he remembers them. That's the funny thing.
No, and he was one step away from the Balco catastrophe that was going on that year.
Yeah, he knew.
So
Victor
he knows
Conte. He knew Victor
Bond stories and
right. Yeah, I'll get him on. You're right. I got to make a list of all this.
He probably did 4 shows with him. The way he talks, he has so much to say.
He has more stories than anyone, but he can't. He knows all the stories detail for detail. But if you asked him what stories do you know, he couldn't remember all the stories. Like, you know what I mean? There's so many. He's like, what do you want to know? He just knows everything.
You'd have to jog his memory first.
Yeah. But it's interesting that Colette Nelson did when we did our insulin special, which Milos didn't like. He's like, he didn't agree with it. But when Colette did that, she's convinced that insulin, or taking insulin and really having super tight blood sugar control, even in people who aren't diabetic, will help with dementia, because there's research now that shows that insulin can combat that, or that dementia might be caused by overaccumulation of glucose in the brain. So that's an interesting topic. So maybe Milos is right. Maybe insulin is the solution to everything.
Yeah.
Either that or it's going to kill us all. On another note, I always like to bring up interesting stories in the news that, and for some reason, anything that involves eating I always say is relevant to bodybuilding. Because we eat so much food. There's a story. I don't know if you saw this. It's so funny that I almost can't say it without laughing. A man broke into a Burger King and he was caught drinking gallons and gallons of deep fried oil, like old deep fried oil that they had in cans. I know it sounds ridiculous, Chris. I'm going to read you the story. It's great. A Florida man found an extreme way to cheat on his diet last night. He broke into a closed fast food restaurant and drank more than 25 gallons of used oil from the deep fryers. The Miami Police Department received a call for a break-in at Burger King at 2 a.m. They were there in minutes. Upon arrival at the restaurant, they found 510-pound Romeo Carter chugging down oil directly from the deep fryers. The 41-year-old man had already ingested dozens of gallons of cooking oil, but was still drinking it with an apparent unquenchable thirst. He was arrested on the site and accused of burglary, criminal trespass, theft by unlawful taking of criminal mischief. Many officers at the Miami Police Department were still on the site this morning to gather evidence and complete the investigation. Mr. Carter was released on bail this afternoon, and he briefly met with the Miami Inquirer to tell of his ordeal. He claims, quote, "My wife put me on a tofu and raw vegetable diet. I couldn't take it anymore. I waited till she was asleep and went to the restaurant to get a couple of burgers, but it was closed. I was starving and depressed, and I totally lost it." Mr. Carter faces a total of 35 years in jail, but he's already offered to pay for the damage he caused, and Burger King could possibly agree to a settlement and accept to drop the charges.
You need to get him on the show.
That's the greatest story I've ever heard of all time. Can you imagine that? The guy in Miami couldn't find one place that was open. He had to drink fucking cooking oil that was used. How good could that have tasted? He drank gallons of oil, not just like a little bit. He drank gallons of oil, and he was still drinking.
What's that do to your bile or your? I don't even know what.
It probably cleanse it, right? It's like
yeah. It's like the emergency switch on a gas heater in an apartment. I mean, just
talk about clogging up the coronary arteries. Oh my God! Because that cooking oil is not good. It's not like you're drinking macadamia nut oil. That's like fucking nasty, rancid vegetable oil. Oh my God! People nuts. 510 pounds this guy weighs. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the way the stuff that was coming out of his butt? Well, can you imagine the crap that came out of his ass? Thank God they didn't arrest him. They better release him. Can you imagine if he would have had to go? Because eventually he would have had to go to the bathroom, and that's like an uncontrollable. That's just oil coming out of your butthole. When you get to that much. You're not absorbing all that oil. That's going right through.
Yeah, that's what I mean. What's it do to your bile and
clean them out? Probably gave him a good. It was like a colonic, probably. only in the wrong end. Who the hell could swallow that much gallons of cooking oil? Gallons. I definitely want to get him on the show. That guy is. I want to just know what the impulsive urge. I mean, he could have gone to 7-Eleven and eaten some burritos. I mean, to break into Burger King. Maybe he thought he was going to find some burgers there. I don't know, but I mean that's nuts. That's nuts.
Well, there's nutty people.
If the charges are maintained,
there's a lot of nutty people, right?
Yeah. He's expected.
Are there more nutty people today than there were 100 years ago? I asked that question to myself the other day. Are there more nutty people? I mean, empirically.
Yeah, I think so.
I think because there's more stimulus.
Well, maybe we're just more aware of them too, because with social media, we can access these people. But this guy should have his own reality show. I'm telling you, I think he's a star in the making. Well,
maybe you can make him a star. I told you need the Saturday Night Live 11:30 some new programming show. The first one is $20,000 pyramid, and we're going to have me and Jay on there. Versus you and I guess it would be Milos.
My wife likes to watch.
The problem is on that team, you have two guys with terrible memories, me and you, versus two guys with like ironclad memories.
Right, but we know each other because we talk to each other for hours every week. So we might do better on the show because we.
Yeah, but Jay and me are connected from we think alike. So.
Oh, you and Jay would be great because someone told me that you guys sound alike, that you have the same intonations.
Well, I sent you that picture that we're getting pitched right at that business meeting, and we had that.
Yes,
my son took my phone and took that picture because he said you guys look like twins.
You both have the same expression on your face, yeah.
Skepticism.
Unreal. 25. It used to be the $25,000 pyramid, and then they went to the $100,000 pyramid.
Yeah. Well, we could do a mock Saturday Night Live, RxMuscle. What's the one with Family Feud?
Yeah, that might be fun. So my wife watches this show all the time. My 600-Pound Life. It's on one of these channels on cable.
Life
channels.
or wife?
Life. So it's like these people 600+ pounds, and they go into this diet doctor. He's like this guy who can barely speak English, but he's a funny dude. And he puts them on a diet, and then they, if they lose enough weight, then he'll do the stomach stapling, procedure on them and help them to, lose weight and look great. Or they do the skin reduction on them, not necessarily stomach stapling. He'll do the skin reduction on them and cut off all the extra skin and everything like that. And it's a crazy show. I'm not really into it. I don't really. My wife's obsessed with watching this show. Amanda loves it. And this guy...
Why does she like it so much?
I don't know. She just loves the whole transformation process and to see these people. She likes reality TV. She's really into that. I'm not really into that, but she's into that like a lot. And she finds it fascinating, I guess. These people lose so much weight. I mean, they're so crazy how much food some of these people eat. This oil drinking guy, I think he might qualify, but he's not 600 pounds. He's close, though. He's 5'10". If he keeps drinking all that cooking oil, though, he might get up there. He'd be great. I'm telling you, this guy's a star in the making. You got to see this picture of him. He looks like a fat version of my friend John Scuderi. Friend John Scuderi will probably get mad at me for saying that, but probably not. But he looks like a fat version of John Scuderi. He's got no neck. He's got like you thought Jeff King had a big neck. This guy's his head is literally connected to his body. There's no neck, zero. I've never seen anything like it. I'm going to send you a picture of him. Remember Anthony Clark, the powerlifter? Do you remember Anthony Clark, Chris? I don't know if I lost Chris.
Yeah, I just lost you. Oh. He's huge. He was huge. Neck huge. Do you
remember Anthony Clark?
How was perfectly round everything.
Perfect powerlifter. I mean, he was one of the strongest guys of all time. May he rest in peace. One of the nicest guys too. Man of God. Just great guy. Yeah, but he had no neck. His head was literally connected to his traps and body. This guy looks the same. I'm telling you. This guy could be a star in the making. I got to get a hold of him. If anyone knows him, because we have a lot of listeners from Miami. If anyone knows this guy, Romeo Carter, 510 pounds, 41 years old. It's amazing these guys are still alive at 41 with that much weight on them. Meanwhile, you see these bodybuilders at 30, 40 years old dropping dead from heart attacks, and this guy's fucking still drinking cooking oil, and he's still fucking going fine. Probably has normal cholesterol levels too. I don't know how these heavy guys do it. Yeah. Anyway, I have a couple of Ask the Technician questions. I know we're running out of time here, but let's blow through a few of them. There's only a couple of them. Let me see. Hi. First of all, if people want to ask Chris questions, you can send them to me at huge285@aol.com. If you want to ask Dave any questions, you can send them to Aceto at RxMuscle.com. Most people don't. I don't like to do my Ask Daves on here anymore because I already do an Ask Dave TV show, so it's kind of redundant. But let's. This one's from Paul Cullen, our photographer friend in Ireland. Ask Chris any final week tips for last week pre-competition in bodybuilding. He's a natural bodybuilder.
Be patient. Don't go extreme.
Okay, it's good. Good tip.
Be patient. Don't go extreme. Don't chase fullness. Don't chase condition. If you do that, a lot of times people will think you've nailed your peak.
Good point.
There might be more details to it than that, but that is the thesis for the last week is don't go for extremes.
I agree. If you look good, keep doing what you're doing. All right, next question. Really enjoyed the Ed Connors interview, Dave. Was cool to see Chris Aceto doing a double bicep when he was younger on the show. Great vacuum pose. Can you ask him how to do a vacuum?
I don't know. It's like you either can or you can't. My kids can do vacuums.
Well, I think you got to practice it. I used to practice a little bit. I could do a vacuum when I was first started, but I necessarily didn't I don't think it made my physique look better, but some people it looks great on if you have a big rib box. I think in Louis Ferrigno, Zane had a great vacuum. You got to
Ferrigno had a great vacuum back in the day.
I have a video called Intestinal Breathing Exercises that I did. It's on our YouTube channel, RxMuscle YouTube channel. You could do a search on it. And if you put intestinal breathing exercises, that will help you do a vacuum. It's basically sucking your stomach in and pushing it out, and sucking it in and pushing it out. You're building up that transverse abdominis musculature. Hey, Chris, you know what? I was thinking, now that someone brought up your double bicep pose with the vacuum, if you were competing today, you would have been a perfect classic physique guy. You definitely would have made the weight, right?
I could. Well, I couldn't put on mass, irrespective of having a tremendous amount of strength. Meaning, I think I had a tremendous amount of strength.
You probably couldn't eat enough. I know it.
Yeah.
No way you ate enough.
I was Dave. I could never eat much.
You can't eat now. Look, eating habits don't change. If you go to I don't eat a lot of meals a day, but if you go out to dinner with me, I can pack away a lot of food. I could tell you. Unless you're ravenously hungry, you don't eat very much food at all, and that's just your pattern. You'll probably live to 150 because of that. Because that's it's black people saying restricted calories increases SIRT2 receptors. You're going to live forever.
Well, yes and no. It goes back to what you say about Ramy, genetics play a big role on how long you will live.
True. You have longevity in your family, don't you, though?
I have. I do. On my father's side, I have one aunt who lived to 114. Wow. She died about 17 years ago. And my grandmother lived to 93, and she was, unhealthy technically since she was like 40. You know what I mean? Like she had continuous high blood pressure, overweight. She wasn't diabetic, but
wow.
We'll see. See,
I
wonder if I can find that broker in like 100 years. If I lived 150 years ago, sold me that building, I said, what will it be worth in 20 years?
You'll probably still have it knowing you. But all right, next question. Do you think glutamine, Chris, helps with dieting hard? Do you feel it stores fat since it has been used in place of carbohydrates to restore glycogen?
Say that again?
Yeah, it sounds a little weird. Do you think glutamine helps with dieting hard? Let's answer that first.
On paper, yeah. In real world, no.
I agree. Second part, do you feel it stores fat since it has been used in place of carbohydrates to restore glycogen? I never heard of that.
You're talking about micro stuff.
Yeah. First of all, I never heard of that. I never heard.
You're talking like micro stuff. It's like, is your heating bill going to go up in an apartment building if 9 out of 900 windows are cracked? No. There's just not enough you talk about micro items in a bigger scope.
Right.
That's why I'm not good at seminars. My question's like yes, no, no, yes.
That's good. Well, he's asking a yes/no question, so you answered it. Okay. Here's the next part of it. What do you feel is more beneficial for a bodybuilder in contest preparation? Higher carb, low to zero fat, or low to no fat and higher fat? Excuse me, low to no carbs and higher fat. No, excuse me. He screwed it up. All right, let me figure this out. Higher carb, zero fat.
Yeah.
Or higher fat, zero carb.
Higher, I guess you would have to define what higher is, with zero fat, will make you lean for sure, and then you will get small.
Yeah.
Low fat, higher fat, no carb, I think it depends on the person. Either you will get very hard, or you'll get leaner for sure and just have like a look to the muscles, like not a dense look. It depends on the person.
Right.
That's my opinion with that. Notice I always say my opinion because you can debate it all day long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look, we all know that lower carb is going to get you in shape. So there's a balance between, you have to figure out how many grams of carbs the person needs, and you don't want to go zero fat because we know there's essential fatty acid requirements. So there's definitely needs to be some fat in the diet. So once again, the extremes are never the way to go. There's always an in between, and that you got to find the in between for the person you're working with. That's really the take home message, I think. Mm-hmm. All right, let's do last question here for Chris. If your show is in one day, prejudging them in the morning, and then the night show in the night, do you feel it's okay to go out and eat foods like burgers and fries that your body hasn't been used to the whole prep?
Only if you're very flat in the prejudging.
Right.
I know this. If you eat the burger and fries, I will guarantee you, for 100% sure, or you eat cake, or you eat cookies, or you eat XYZ, you will feel like you are absolutely harder and denser. And you may be, and you won't know until you get under the lights, and oftentimes you say, film. Yeah. And you know what? Nothing is worse than in a tough show than a slight film of water. Right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not packed with muscle, and if you're not packed with muscle and you're holding slight film, then that film really shows up. If you're packed with muscle and you're holding a slight film, when you pose, Kai Green, you still see everything jumping.
Yeah. I feel that once you're dry and after prejudging, and as long as you're not drinking, you pretty much could eat whatever you want, and you're probably not going to screw yourself up. As a matter of fact, most people do look better after having some type of a junky meal after prejudging. And then sometimes before prejudging, I give them, because they're not drinking either, I'll give them pancakes and some eggs or something like that. Once again, it depends on what the person looks like. Like Chris said, you can't just make a blanket statement. Some people, you give them a burger and fries, and it's going to destroy them. So other people, they look amazing. So that's where a coach comes in. That's why you need someone advising you. You can't advise yourself. You'll always make the wrong decisions. It just happens.
I agree, and that's because you don't know, right? You don't know because you haven't done it yet. So when you're eating that burger or cakes after prejudging, you wouldn't know until you try it.
Yeah. Like I said,
how it works out.
Yeah, but Chris, if you're not drinking, there's very little you can do to screw yourself up, more than likely. I always felt that, people who had something a little junkier after prejudging, it made them look better at night. Very rarely did I say, the guy looks terrible. Now, there's a proviso on that. If you drink a lot of fluid with the junky meal, you're certainly going to smooth yourself out. There's no doubt about that. That I always find to be the case. But look, once again, trial and error. Work with a coach you trust, and you should probably get some great results. And remember, the quote of the week: the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is right now. So, guys, if you have something that you're passionate about in life, something you want to do it now. Don't put it off for another 20 years. And on that note, we are out of time. Until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.